Hey guys, if you've just tuned in, um, it is time for the Rise of the Bloodborn review. I'm here with my teammate Sivan from 9moons.gg. How you doing, Sivan?
Hello, I'm doing quite well.
Jay will be joining us shortly. Uh, let's just talk a little bit about the meta. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, Sivan, but I kind of
I,
feel like... Oh, I think Jay just
okay.
joined. Is that you,
Hey.
Jay?
Yep.
Excellent. You just joined in time for. We're going to talk a little bit about the meta, but pretty much my experience so far has been that Magmar is really strong. It's super cheesy, but it also seems pretty strong. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's just an incredibly powerful aggro deck. I'm testing a few different versions of it. Some with Decimus, some without Decimus, some Vath, some Starhorn, and they all seem at least pretty damn good.
Man, I'd never heard Simon's voice before, but he sounds like a Magmar unit. But yeah, Magmar, Magmar. I think they're really like, they just like they have these crazy cards that make no sense compared to other things. Like there's Flame Blood Warlock, then there's a 2-mana deal 4 damage, draw a card. Like they're insane right now. I think they do a lot of damage. They can kill you really fast, and they don't run out of cards.
Yeah, yeah. It seems pretty insane. Um, so some good counters, I think. Faye can counter it all right. I think
hmm
maybe Lyonar, but I haven't experimented much with that. And I think Reaver's always had a pretty good matchup versus Magmar. So I'm not sure how it'll go now post expansion. I think factions that can
I
drop their hand the fastest and also maybe fit in some healing, it would be best against them.
I think that it used to be that if Songhai drew well enough, got a good enough opening hand, they were just unbeatable, regardless of what you did or what you played. I think Magmar has somewhat turned into that now.
Yeah, especially with the new 3-mana Heaven's Eclipse. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so now they have that.
You cut out for a sec there, Jay.
I said that Magmar even has a 3-mana Heaven's Eclipse now. So, and I think that's what Songhai used to have a long time ago. But yeah, they kind of are like the new Songhai because you can't even predict what kind of damage they can do. They could do like Flash, Flame Blood, Flash, Elucidator, and Fortitude or something.
Yeah,
It can be pretty obnoxious.
it just pretty much past about 5 mana. You just constantly, if you're within 10 health to 15 health, they can just kill you instantly. So let's do a card review. Let's start with. I want to start with the neutrals. So Rise of. So the first one up is Cryptographer, and I feel like this card is definitely good and probably even, really strong. 2/2 for 2 stats aren't great, but at least in general it's a 2-drop. So at least it's not a 1/1 or a 2/1, so it doesn't die to incidental 1 damage. Um, it's also it has a lot of combination potential. I've seen it used in Songhai. I've seen it used because it's good for, I think, Reaver going second or even going first. I think it's good with Fae. I think it's good with Lilith and probably even Cass too. So I'm going to say that this will definitely see play in at least one, if not several, of the top tier decks. What do you guys think?
Um,
It's it's good. I don't think it's great. It's the card I'd liken it to is Alcuin, because it allows for some cool playmaking like Alcuin does, and it has the whole thing where it gets you a spell that's already been played, but it's always your Bloodborn with this one. I like it, but I don't think we'll see it a whole lot just because the body's so weak and it's so painful to start with, unless you can play your Bloodborne as well.
Yeah, I agree with Simon. I did see Mr. Enderman play it with Cassava, and it was cool with Variax. You could do Variax 3-mana Bloodborne spell, then crit this guy, and then do it again. But other than that, I don't really think it's all that great.
Just to note, you can sort of, if you're going second, for example, you can play Cryptovica and then you can Bloodborne spell. So you don't have to have already played your Bloodborne spell in the game yet. Or if you're going first, you can play this guy and then turn 2 you'll have your Bloodborne spell available. I think it's also really good, like, just this card being in the meta incidentally makes some decks stronger. For example, you know, you might have to play around Faye's Bloodborne spell even if she doesn't have it up, because you might think, well, maybe they could Cryptographer, so, you know, it kind of limits your potential placements.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Even before turn 3, you could play it and have Bloodborne?
Yeah.
Bloodborne?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I think makes it strong, is that it's a 2-drop that is also a decent 3-drop, if that makes sense. So, you know, going first, second turn, you can play it and Bloodborne spell, so it's usually pretty good, I would say, in Lilith or in Reaver in that respect, but I think Reaver probably has better things to do, but even then it's not too bad because, you know, Reaver struggles to find, like, playable 2-drops, you know what I mean? I think you've got, you've got a Katara and Chakri Avatar, but usually, you know, you resort to Tuskbore and that's it, and you usually have under, you know, the 9 2-drops, but I think this is another 2-drop that Reaver wouldn't mind playing.
Yeah,
I like the fact that this is in the game.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think Cryptoverse is good for the game. Let's move on to Sanguinar. I think Sanguinar is crappy. I don't think it'll be worth playing.
I agree. I don't... Like, I think it's cute, but 5/4 stats for basically a vanilla... Like, it's okay, but it basically is vanilla to me because the Bloodborne spell isn't that impactful on your 4 or 5 mana play when you could be playing with Heal just to win the game.
Yeah. What do you think, Steven?
I agree. Often you can play a 4-drop on the tile and then Bloodborne anyway on, like, turn 3.
Yeah.
So this doesn't help at all in that situation. And it's just not particularly useful. It has to be... It's not like an opening gambit, so it has to be alive for this effect to be useful.
Yeah.
And it's a 5/4, and that's just not good.
The only thing I could see it in is Lilith, because you can go, like Simon said, you usually just play 4 mana and then your Bloodborne spell anyway, but with Lilith, they play so many 1-drops like 6 and stuff. You could play it on the mana, Bloodborne spell, and then 6, and you have a huge swarm board, but other than that, I don't really see it being played.
So what about Meltdown? What do you guys think about Meltdown? I think Meltdown will definitely see some play. I don't like it from a design perspective because I don't like the word random on any of my cards if I can avoid it. But I think I've seen it used in Cass, I've seen it used in Fae as well, just as a really strong finisher or, you know, removal. So it's basically, people are referring to it as Ragnaros, and I think it's very similar. What do you guys think of it?
I think it's really good. I've been playing it a lot in Control Phase, and most of my games are won by this card. Whether or not it hits the right thing you want it to, it's still a 7/7. You get Heart Sister, then if it hits face, you did 14 damage and you probably won. I think it's really, really good.
Sivan, what do you reckon?
It's definitely good. I think if the meta ever slows down, this card might become an issue just with kind of how strong and RNG reliant it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the old problem with Kron getting the Force Field minion, and if that happened on 5 mana, you pretty much just won the game. With Meltdown, if you can play it on 8 mana, Bloodborne, hit the enemy's face, that will often just give you lethal, or at least threaten lethal with the 7/7 body, and you just spiral technique their face.
Yeah.
Yeah. The main thing I hate about it though is that they could kill each other. Like I wish they learned a lesson from Hearthstone and made it like a 6/8, so it wouldn't be like coin flips in the Ragmares. Like Rag, I killed your Rag, I win, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
So moving along, the Vanar cards. First up, Concealing Shroud. Now, I think the whole community's reaction to this was pretty much, holy hell, that card is insanely good. I had some people be like, oh no, it's trash, but I think almost everyone that plays Vanar, I've seen them start including it in their decks and trying it out to varying success. It's really good if you can chain it, and it's especially good, I think, against Magmar, since then it blocks their, insane face damage. But it can be a bit weak against mid-range or control decks, where it effectively does nothing to the board and just wastes a turn and a card. What do you
this
think?
card is absolutely bonkers. It's good in aggro Fey, because you take no damage from general attacks and Flameblood Warlock, and it wins you the aggro mirror. It's good in Mech Fey, because you can play your Mech and keep yourself alive with Concealing Shroud. It's good in Control Fey, because you can keep yourself alive and kill them with Warbird. And it's just so strong at so many stages of the game.
yeah, like I had that thought process too, that if you play it you'll lose board, but it never is a bad play, even like early on, because it's still 2 damage and you don't take damage. Like you can hit a Flameblood Warlock for free basically, and it doesn't affect you at all. But I think it's one of the best cards in Fey right now. Like it should be an auto staple in every single deck, maybe even Alcuin for how good it is.
I agree.
Okay, so the next one, Frigid Corona. Now, when I saw this card, I was like, well, why wouldn't you just play Icy? It's effectively Icy, and then, like, if you played this and then you played a 0-mana 2/3 Battle Threat, you'd be playing Icy. And a 0-mana 2/3 Battle Threat, I think, is is a pretty good card, free tempo. So I thought this card was pretty much, why wouldn't you play Icy? But I've seen a few people using it instead of Icy, and perhaps better than Icy, because, sometimes playing a 0-mana 2/3 battle pet isn't what you'd want to do. You'd want to play some other card that you drew off of this. So I have mixed feelings about this. I would rate it as, like, bad, but a very tentative bad.
I would rate it kind of bad too. I tested it a little bit. I was still I hated it before I even put it in my deck. But after I tested it, it was okay. But I felt like Flash Freeze in almost every situation would be better if you just put more draw in your deck. Because you're basically paying 2 mana to draw a card. I don't think it's as good as Flash Freeze or Icy.
I would say tentatively this is a good card. Not amazing, but basically you have to play this in Control Fey. And I think in Control Fey, just being able to cycle that and eliminate a damage threat, like you can use this on Scary Minion or the enemy general to stop them from moving towards you. You can play this, and sometimes it acts like a second or a fourth Concealing Shroud.
Yeah, it can be good. The one good thing about it though is it saves deck space. Like you don't need to play extra draw with Flash Freeze, but with this you have both Gift Draw and Flash Freeze, so it saves deck space too.
Okay, so Enfeeble, on the other hand, is again like Concealing Shroud, except I don't think I've seen a single person say that Enfeeble isn't like a 5 out of 5 score. The effect being permanent is just, it's incredible. Blood Tear was already a decent card in Fey, and you can always, it's such a cheap spell that you can use it with a Hearth Sister or Hearth Sister BBS, or even Blistering Scorn plus Enfeeble is a full board clear. So where before we were stuck to using Magmar, and you can Enfeeble and then next turn Blistering Scorn too. So you can Enfeeble and then run away and then Blistering Scorn if you really have to clear the board, and sometimes you don't even have to clear the 1/1s. So I think Enfeeble is practically meta-defining. What do you guys think?
Well, first off, are we just all agreeing that Myriad is unplayable?
Pardon?
Well, like, you skip Myriad.
Oh, yeah. I'm going by in the in the client itself rather than on that page.
Oh, okay.
In the client, it puts Enfeeble before Myriad because I think it lists them alphabetically. So I'm not sure why it listed. Oh no, it's not. Yeah, it is. It's alphabetically on mana cost.
Yeah.
So, but they went the other way around on the website. So we'll come back. Myriad's next. So what do you think of Enfeeble?
Enfeeble is really strong.
You can go,
It's
sorry.
just it's a 3-mana metamorphosis, and that's obviously hugely powerful. It's not quite as good as metamorphosis, but it's not 3 mana worse than it.
No.
So the amount of value you get from this on 3 mana, it lets you play this and something else, which I think is the real strong point, because Metamorphosis, you're generally just playing that card and that's your turn. Whereas this, you can play this and a threat, deal with your opponent's board completely, develop something they have to deal with, and it can be a massive tempo swing.
Yeah.
That made me laugh really hard when you said that it was like Metamorphosis, because I never thought about that, but it actually is, especially in this meta where there's not that many crazy Death Rattle or Dying Wishes. You could just play this, and it basically is a 3-mana Metamorphosis in almost all situations, except versus like Vorpal Reaver, and that's insane. I only play one currently. That's probably because I'm ignorant to how good it is, but because I think Aspect of the Fox with how good Gravity Well is better currently, but it is a really, really good card.
For certain. Okay, what about Myriad? A 3/3 for 3 is pretty average stats. It's not good, especially since it dies to a lot of things that have 3 attack or deal 3 damage. And then its ability isn't a opening gambit. Its ability is Blood Surge, so you have to use your BBS as well. So technically, you could say it costs 4 mana. And then it summons a random wall, and when it says nearby, it's again on a random tile. So it's a random wall on a random tile. So it could, like, the value that you get off the ability could be completely useless. You know, if you get one of those 0/2 walls in the middle of nowhere, or it could be quite strong. You know, if you get that provoke that you really need, or a 3/3 wall right in their face. But I think generally speaking, I would say this card is unlikely to see play. I think the only way it's going to see play is where are we? Is that Vesperic Call. I think someone's going to play Vesperic Call and then get this as a 4/4, and it's not going to be too bad. You know, it becomes then, you know, a 2 mana 4/4 after you've Vesperic Called, so 4/4 for 3 total. And it's going to be okay then because it has a really nice stat, and then, you know, you might actually get value off of its BBS. So what do you guys think?
I think it's a really good Kara card. Well, I don't think it's really good, but I think it's up there with playable 3-drops. Like, it has a lot of value in Kara because you can play this. It's a 4/4. Then you Bloodborn spell. You have like, at worst, a 1/3, which is really good still, and it snowballs. It keeps snowballing every turn, and if your opponent doesn't deal with it, which they probably can't, because Phoenix Bear can't even kill it, it'll just get out of control. So I think it's okay in Kara. In Fae, I think it's almost unplayable, but I think it has value in Kara.
Don't you have to play this as a 3/3 and then use the Bloodborne spell?
Well,
oh, that's that's actually true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you
Yeah,
could
that's
use
true.
the BBS and then use the BBS again afterwards at another time. But yeah,
I mean, if you want to spend 7 mana, you can play BBS, Cryptographer, Myriad BBS, but it's not good.
Yeah, I forgot about that. It's I don't think it's very good then, since you have to play it first and it dies to Phoenix Fire.
So
It's
what
just a
about
slow card, then.
Sleet Dasher? Now, everyone, as soon as they saw Sleet Dasher, I would say, jumped on the whole, oh my god, we can Sleet Dasher plus Boundless Courage for endless removal and some damage. But I've seen it done a couple of times and it's pretty impressive. But it's a 2-card combo that requires your 4-mana creature to stay on the board. Now, it does have 6 health, which is quite a lot of health, so it's not easy to remove. But it also requires that you have it within range of something to remove. So I'm not entirely sure it's good, but I wouldn't call it bad because 3/6 for 4 stats isn't that bad. You know, the golem, the Yeti of Duelist is a 4/6, so you're only losing 1 attack for potentially giving something celerity. You know, if you move it forward and remove a minion, then you get to move it and attack again, and we all know celerity minions are like really strong. So I will put it in the playable pile, but I wouldn't say that it's super strong.
I tend to agree there. It has the same stats as Primus Shieldmaster, and would you rather have this effect or would you rather have Provoke? And in most situations, I would just rather have Provoke.
What do you think, Jay?
I agree, especially in this meta where the Bath has all these base cards and stuff. I'd rather have Provoke too, but even when you look at it in a nutshell compared to every single 4-drop, since it's so clogged in the 4-drop spot, if you compare it to Dealtis, Sunsteel, and all that, they are so much better, I think. It's a cool card, but you have to compete with Dealtis and all that.
Yeah, there's much stronger 4-drops, I think. Grandmaster Embla, my opinion is that she's the worst of the Grandmasters, which is really sad because Vanar is my favourite faction.
Yeah.
Her effect, I costed her effect at about 4 mana, surrounding the enemy general with random walls. So then her body, her 5/5 body, is probably worth around 4 mana again, as we were talking about the golem, the 4 mana golem. So together, the effect and her body make up about 8 mana's worth, which is bad for an 8 mana card. The problem with 8 mana cards is that they have to be far better than their parts put together because of that huge cost. So generally, for example, things like Revenant, I would cost it way more than 7 mana. I struggle to find other, 8 mana minions where, like, even the 6 mana, the other Abyssian thing that gets played for 6 mana, I would cost it as, higher. I would probably rather play a 6/6 celerity for 6. So Grandmaster Embla for 6 mana, I would still be considering not playing. I would rather play the Abyssian creature. What do you guys think?
Yeah, this is worse than non-existent Magmar Grandmaster. It's just, it can win you the game, but in the situation where this is winning you a game, basically anything else for the same or less mana would also win you the game.
Wow, I agree. Like, especially with Meltdown being in the same set, how do you compare Meltdown and this? Like, Meltdown is insane compared to this. You could even play it on 7 mana and just leave it there for next turn with Meltdown. I played Grandmaster one time, and it summoned all 0/2s in the Gravity Wells and 1/3/3, and then he just Plasma Stormed it all. I don't really think it's that great compared to Meltdown Pandora.
I think if the walls could maybe attack, like if they had, I don't know, if it was just better. It's just not good enough. So let's move on to Magmar. I think was the next one we were going to do. Is that correct? Yeah. So,
Mhm.
Magmar in general has been really insane. So I'm actually going to start again, like the way the client lines them up. So we've got Entropic Gaze before Ranker, just so you know, Sibin. Now, Entropic Gaze, along with Tectonic Spike, I think we can review these two together, have pretty much defined the meta as we were talking about before, as now Starhorn is not just playable, but actually quite strong. And I think that these two cards pretty much make the deck what it is. 2 mana, deal 4 damage to the enemy general, I think is somewhat playable. There's a card in Magic that's played like that in burn decks, which is pretty much what the new Magmar deck that everyone plays on the ladder is. I would just classify it as a burn deck. And then the fact that both players draw a card is also really good for the deck, because generally speaking, you're going to be playing it when you're running out of cards, and if they're playing a deck that has a lot of draw card in it itself, at some point you're going to be milling them, but you're still drawing cards. So this can be, in some situations it can be 2 mana, deal 4 damage, draw a card, which is just incredibly powerful. So I rate this card as really strong. What do you guys think?
It's broken. It's like old Night Sorrow Assassin, but not limited by positioning, and doesn't cost you a card, and is 1 less mana.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just it's the best aggro card in the game by far, I think.
I think
Are we talking?
if Songhai had this card, it would be insane. So I think Magmar's just as good.
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking about both Entropic Gaze and Spikes?
Well, we're talking about Entropic Gaze, but I think they're both equally just as strong. Tectonic Spikes, like you were saying before, is Heaven's Eclipse for 2 less mana, and it deals 3 damage. So it's, again, I think in Tectonic Spikes, it follows the same kind of basic design as Entropic Gaze, where they're like, let's see how badly we can break the game.
Yeah, on Entropic Gaze, I think it's overstated for damage by a long shot. Like, it's Flameblood Warlock will draw a card. Like, you could say, oh, it helps the opponent, but no, it doesn't. Your opponent is dead.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to talk about Tectonic Spikes. So can I talk about that real quick?
You want to talk about Tectonic Spikes, did you say?
Yep.
You might want to, if you can turn up your mic, I don't know how to turn you up myself, but you should turn up your sound just a little bit if you can.
You can right-click him and drag up the user volume.
Can I? Oh yeah, there it is. So never mind, Jay, I got it. Say something, Jay.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep. I will
Okay.
just... There we go, you're 200% now. So yeah, what do you want to say about Tectonic Spikes?
Okay. At first I was only running 2 in Face Magmar because I thought it was like, oh, it's just a draw card, you don't need this until late game. But no, this card is insane. Like, it is way more than 3 damage with Flash. Like, you wouldn't think it was, you just think it's a draw card. But late game, or even mid game, when you're at like 6 mana, you play this, you draw cards, then you have Flash Reincarnation to do like 10 extra damage. You Flash Elucidator, Fortitude, Flameblood, all that. It is crazy.
It is easily broken, I think. So, moving along, Ranker, also another really strong card. Less broken, I think, than the other two, but still, this is a 2-drop, similar, but not quite as good, I would say, as, what's it called? Chakri Avatar, that spirals out of control. If you don't deal with it in the first sort of, couple of turns, if you keep trying to run away from it, eventually it gets really huge with a giant attack that just will smash you to death. And even in the starting turns, when you drop this and then you can move forward and it becomes a 3/3, or, combined with Flameblood Warlock, it can be, something as huge as like a 6 attack minion hitting them in the face. With that said, it is weak to Tiger, and I have seen a lot of Tiger in this meta, so dropping this and then having the opponent Tiger it away can be a little bit sad, but I think overall it's worth the risk. What do you guys think?
It's basically a Rocky Headhunter, but better, I think. It's same stats, same cost, same, like, its attack increases, but its health does not. But you cannot ramp this up to 3 attack going first as player 2. However, the Rancor's attack increases much, much faster than Araki Headhunters.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a better card. And it, like Shakri, is a 2-drop that does demand an answer. But Magmar does not have Juxtaposition or Miss Dragon Seal.
Yes.
So you cannot play this defensively and then swoop it in to do 10 damage when you need it to. This has to be on the front line to be threatening, and it's very easy to kill it when it's on the front line.
Yeah, I think it's better for Magmar than a Rocky Headhunter just because they don't use that many opening gambits and stuff. Well, other than like Flameblood Warlock and the Elucidator. But I don't even play a Rocky Headhunter in Mech since like March, and I think Mech is like the best deck to play a Rocky Headhunter in. So I don't think a Rocky Headhunter type cards are really that great when Songhai and Tiger are so prevalent. It's a cool card, but like Simon said, no Jux, no Heart Sister, no Rush mechanic like Old Vindicator. I don't think it's very great.
So you don't think rank is very good?
No, I don't think with Saber Spine and Big Spire in the meta.
Okay. So moving along to Thrax. Thrax? I don't know how to say it. It's a 2/4 for 3, so it's got a really nice amount of health. It's hard sometimes to find 4 health, 3 mana minions that'll survive all the easy 3 damage sources. Blood Surge, all friendly minions gain +1 attack, including itself. Now, I think this card is broken in Swarm decks, but I think on its own, in your average Magmar deck, it's slightly below average. So if you're playing a Swarm deck, then this card will get insane value. It's basically a 3 mana. It's a 3 mana version, probably slightly better than Shiro, but even then, I kind of feel like Shiro is probably better because for 1 less mana, it has 1 less attack, and you don't have to Bloodborn. But with that said, this effect is instant, and it doesn't have to stand next to the Shiro. So I don't know. I rate this as playable, but not great. What do you guys reckon?
I'd have to agree. It's fine. It's okay. It's a fair card. I would only really play this in dedicated, like, swarmy, flood, Mandrake, Starhorn kind of decks.
Yeah.
And nothing else. It's fine though.
What do you reckon, Jay?
Yeah, I think exactly what Simon said is how it should be. I used to play a Swarm Starhorn deck that was dedicated on just playing Mandrake on 6 mana, and that's the only thing I think it's good in. Even then, deck space is kind of tight, so I don't know. It's cool in that deck, but other than that, I think it's kind of unplayable.
Okay, so Drogon. When I first saw this card, I thought, oh my god, here we go. I'm going to be standing next to a Vath, and he's going to hit me for like 50 damage with this Drogon. But watching the meta, I think there's just better decks out there. I think in the long term, this card might become playable. But at the moment, I think it's both too slow and too situational to actually be strong. What do you guys think?
I would agree with that. It's very good.
Oh, I don't really have much to say about it. I agree with you. I don't think it's very great. It has cool combos in theory, but it's really impractical.
Mm-hmm. I think it has a lot of potential. I think, like, in theory, obviously you can play run away, play Bounded Life Force, then on 9 mana play this Silhouette Tracer Bloodborne spell and one-shot them. But that in practice won't be happening much.
No.
But it's definitely a card with potential. It's not bad, it's just difficult to use, and it'll be inconsistent.
So finally we've got Valknu's Seal. Another card where I thought when I first saw it that this card is amazing. Now keep in mind I've seen several people misplay this where they think they have to put it next to their general for some reason, but you can actually put it anywhere on the board. With that said, it's a 0/1 so you're paying 4 mana for something that dies to a ping. So against Cassava you'll literally never get a chance to play it. It's trash. Even against a lot of decks like Fae, or any deck that runs a ping, even Reaver can deal with it quite easily with Inner Focus or Juxtaposition or, Phoenix Fire, so you're sacrificing huge amounts of tempo in the hope that it lives. With that said, there is the Egg Synergy card. You can actually Wild Interceptor this, and Wild Interceptor is a 2-card 8-mana combo that gives you a second general. But usually at the point that you're at 8 mana, you would probably be at low enough health that the equivalent, say, Grandmaster Zia is just as good as this combo, and that's 1 card by itself. So I feel like, 1 card by itself as compared to a 2-card combo, and Zia doesn't even get played that much, I would say this card is bad.
This card doesn't give you a second general. This card spawns a minion that's a copy of your general.
Oh, it's a minion.
If your general dies, you lose. This minion doesn't do anything.
Okay, well it's even worse then, actually.
Yeah, this card is awful.
So yeah, this is it's terrible. What do you reckon, Jay? Terrible?
I call it Valknu's Burst because it's kind of like Chrysalis Burst. It's cheesy, you hope it spawns, but it's worse than Chrysalis Burst. It's 1 egg. I think it's terrible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't play this at 3 mana.
I think it might be playable at 2 mana.
Oh yeah, because you might as well, just play it, hope they don't have a ping. If they do, no big deal, you only spent 2
You
mana.
can play it turn 1 then, right? You could play it turn 1, play it, hope they don't have a ping, and if they don't, then you get a 225?
Yeah, that's strong, but...
But at 4 mana, I think
As
by
it is,
then the board state is such
awful.
that you'll be losing far too much trying to get away with it. So let's move along to Abyssian. Ferosa. At first, I thought this card was pretty average, but I've seen it used quite a bit, especially with, we were talking about before, Cryptographer, because you can, Ferosa BBS, Cryptographer BBS again, that will cost you 5 mana, but it will give you 2 3/3 Wraithlings and 2 2/2 Wraithlings and a 2/2 and a 1/2, and it's a 2-card combo. Isn't that hard to get on 5 mana that just floods the board in a flood deck? So, it's a 1 mana card in general, which is quite good. And even just on its own, if you're going to BBS, it turns, you're basically turning your BBS. It ends up being like a 3/4 for 1 mana if you were going to play your BBS anyway that turn. So I would say this card is a lot better than I thought it was originally, and I think it'll practically be a staple in Swarm Abyssian. What do you guys think?
I think it's really good. Any 1-drop that has more than 1 HP, I think, is really good. Especially in Swarm mode, you could just play this turn 1 even, and what is your opponent going to do? Saber Spine it? Oh, thanks, I played a Jaxi too. I just think it's such an incredible snowball card. I can see it being played a lot.
Or you reckon, Steven?
It's solid. I don't think it's great, but yeah, like Jay said, you can definitely snowball off this very quickly. Again, kind of very Shiro-esque. Yeah, there's no reason to not play this in Swarm Lilith. No reason to play it in Cassava.
Yeah, you won't play it
Not
in Cass.
huge game breaking, but it's good. It's solid.
So, Aphotic Drain. Destroy a friendly minion to restore 5 health to your general. I think this is terrible. The Lyonar card doesn't make you sacrifice a minion and costs 1 less mana, and isn't even played that much. It's pretty much, you'll play it as like a 1 or 2 of sometimes. So having to sacrifice a minion and having that extra mana cost, I think this won't see any play. There's much better healing in Abyssian already, and just in the game in general.
Hmm. Yeah, pretty much that. I mean, just play Void Pulse.
Yeah, exactly. Void Pulse is 2 less healing,
Yeah,
but also does 2 damage, and doesn't make you sacrifice a minion, and doesn't cost 2 mana, so...
Yeah. I just think it's funny that there's a lot of power creep in this set, but this is like reverse power creep.
So speaking of power creep, Punish. Destroy a damaged minion. Now, it's funny to me because everyone used to joke in Hearthstone how broken Execute would be in Mage. And then Duelist, the CPG devs go, oh really, you think that would be broken? Well, why don't we just try that out and see if you're correct? And I think that everyone that's played against or with this card will see that it is just, it's absurd how good it is, because basically to get value out of it, you only have to be killing like a 3 mana or more minion, and for every extra mana that they've spent on that minion, you're just gaining huge amounts of tempo, and quite often people will play 5 or 6 mana minions, and then you can just literally punish them for it.
I think with how the meta's turned out, with everyone playing super low curve decks, super out of hand damage, aggro kind of decks, or at least low cost heals, low cost minions, Punish isn't showing how truly good it is. And if the meta ever shifts away to kind of more expensive minions, like lots of 4, 5, 6 drops, God forbid 7 drops, this will just kind of make sure that is not going to happen. And those cards will never be truly meta as long as Punish is around.
Yeah, I think this is a really, like you said, it's still strong in the current super aggressive meta, and then this card will help keep the meta really aggressive as well, because as soon as the meta starts to slow down, this card, again, literally punishes you for trying to play big minions. So
Yeah.
I think this is one of those cards, just like the Magmar cards, Entropic Gaze and Tectonic Spikes, where as long as these are around, the meta will just stay super fast, and it'll be really difficult to justify playing big minions. So, Horror Burster.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you had something to say, Jay? Jay?
Oh, I was just gonna say it's kind of depressing that they keep making all these big minions late game, but then they make Punish. It just prevents them.
Yeah, it is. Hopefully, hopefully we see a nerf to it, just maybe slightly increasing its mana cost or making it sort of have some extra downside of some sort. Now, Horror Burster. 4-1 for 3 is pretty miserable stats. Dying Wish Transformer, my favourite word, random friendly minion into a 6/6 horror. I don't know, I've seen it played a little bit, shockingly. I don't think it's good, but I might be wrong, because 6/6 is a lot of stats if you can get it to proc on some 1/1 of yours. But if you have this out, it kind of prevents you playing bigger, better minions, because it might change, some other minion that you had with an ability into now a pointless 6/6 horror, especially if you're playing whatever minion it is away from the enemy. So say you're playing a Kaleno or a Shadow Dancer, and then, oh, now it's just a 6/6 and it has to walk all the way to the other side of the board. So I would say this is bad. What do you guys think?
I don't think it's... Oh, sorry.
I think it's in my Swarm Cassava. I think it's okay just because you can ping it the turn you summon it, but that's 4 mana for a 6/6, and you have to get rid of a 1/1. So I don't know if that's worth it. But I think it's cool in Swarm Cassava just because of that interaction. Other than that, I think it's almost unplayable. If Swarm Lilith doesn't want a big body, they want lots of minions, you can play a Wraithling Swarm instead of this on that turn. Big Lilith doesn't care because they don't usually have that many minions anyway that they'd want to transform.
I think Aggro Lilith is the only deck that would really play this, and I think it's good in there. But outside of that, it's a lot of the time turning your cool minion into a 6/6 is a downgrade. So you have to play this in something.
It does have a very nice
don't care what
animation,
turns
though.
into a 6/6. It does. It's like holding a giant pizza on its tail, and it's kind of like feeling around.
What did you say, Human?
I love Scorpions, so I wish this card was a lot stronger.
Oh.
So Necrotic Sphere. Destroy all minions nearby your general and summon Wraithlings in their place. I'm pretty sure this makes the Wraithlings yours as well.
It does.
It's amusing to me that in the same expansion that they give Vanar a terrible Grandmaster, they also doubly make sure to include a hard counter to it as well. So it's kind of like, hey Vanar, did you think that your Grandmaster was going to be good? Just in case you thought it was good, it's not. So...
I mean, 2 of the Wraithlings play into Warbird.
Exactly. So I take it back, actually. Vanar Grandmaster confirmed best in game. Necrotic Sphere, I don't know, it's kind of... Like, a lot of the time as Cass, you're so far away from the action, and even Lilith as well, you're so far away from the action with your general that it's hard to get value out of this. With that said, against, say, something like Lyonar, I can see putting this in your sideboard as a tech, sort of like, oh, you know, you surrounded me by 2 or 3 taunts, well now I get, you know, incredible value. If you can hit 2 minions that are worth 3 or more with this, then it is insane, right? Like, if you hit, you know, maybe a Ironcliff and a Silverguard Knight, you've removed 8 mana and 2 cards for 6 mana, and you get 2 1/1s that'll help with Kaleno or just generally board positioning, body blocking, things like that. So I can see this as a tech card, but I don't think that it'll see much main deck play. What do you guys think?
I'd agree with that completely. If you can sideboard and you're against Lyonar, you might play this. If you don't know what you're against, you would not put this in your deck.
Well, maybe if you were against Fae as well, since if you knew you were going against like a control Fae deck running the wells, the gravity well, and other such minions.
I'd rather play Grasp.
Pun?
I'd rather play Grasp with Agony.
Yeah, probably. I think Grasp is still probably better against Fae.
Yeah, when I look at this card, I think of a Magmar card. You want to be in their face, you want to have this to kill everything, but Cassava doesn't do that. She's across the map most of the time because she can. Especially with Meltdown in the meta, why would you play this over, like, Dark Transformation? They just play Meltdown across the map, what are you going to do? Especially with Punish, like, what? You don't need more removal, so I don't really see it use that well.
So, Grandmaster Variax. At first, I didn't realize this was opening Gambit, and I thought it was terrible, because I was like, you have to have it survive a turn, but then I realized it's opening Gambit, so you can actually turbo this out with Darkfire Sacrifice for 5 mana, and then on turns 4 or 5, depending on whether you went first or second, you then get to use your BBS. Now, the BBS for Lilith, in case you're wondering what awesome BBSs are, basically, you know, gives you your usual 2 1/1s, but then it also turns all Wraithlings into 5/5s, which is just incredible. So basically your BBS becomes 3 mana summon 2 5/5s, and also turn, like I said, any other Wraithlings that you get from all the other things like Wraithling Swarm or Blood Moon Priestess become 5/5s as well, or any Wraithlings that you had previously on the board all become 5/5s. And then for Cassiva, it's really interesting. It actually summons 4/4s on every creep tile. Now, I think this is significantly less good than the Lilith version, because while you do want all those 4/4s, it effectively makes it so that you can't make creep anymore. So and you can't use it in conjunction with punish anymore. You can't. There's a lot of things you just need your ping for. So I feel like this is not as good in Cassiva, and I think you'd be more likely to see Meltdown and Revenant in the 7 mana slot, and even maybe 1 or 2 of the Obliterate over this. But in Lilith, especially Ramp Lilith, I think this card is incredible. In Ramp Lilith, you get a huge body for 7 mana, and then from then on you get to keep making 2 5/5s. That's basically 10/10s worth of stats for 3 mana is out of control. So I would say in Ramp Lilith, and maybe even some mid-range Lilith decks, this card is definitely going to see play. What do you guys think?
The first thing I thought whenever I saw this card was, like you said, the Ramp Lilith. Because it's so good if you could get it out early, because then you just start snowballing earlier. I think it's really good, and if Punish wasn't enough to seal the game late game, then this thing definitely will.
What do you reckon, Steven?
Yeah, if you play this on turn 3, you just win. If there's just no coming back from having your Bloodborn spell summon 2 5/5s from turn 3.
Yeah.
And it's still like a 7/7 body, which isn't amazing, but it's definitely respectable. Definitely has to be dealt with. And by the time you've dealt with that, then the Bloodborne spell's coming back up soon, and it's just huge amount of pressure, puts your opponent on a very strict timer, and forces them to either kill you in the next few turns or just get outboarded.
I also think it's a cool addition to Revenant, especially if Shroud being in Bay now. Whenever they Shroud and they're invincible, you can't play Revenant now, so you can play this girl instead and have infinite value to outlate game them while they try to stall.
That's true.
Yep. So moving on to Vetruvian, Stone to Spears. Now, when I first saw this card, I thought, well, this is going to be pretty strong, right? Like, +3 attack, and you can now move your obelisk. It's kind of like really useful. A lot of people ragged on it and said, actually, it's terrible. It's not good enough to make Vetruvian strong. I did see a few people use it and like make it really amazing. So I think if we see like Vetruvian played a little bit more, I think Stone to Spears will definitely be a good card. But I don't think it's anywhere near as broken as, say, Punish or ramping out the Abyssian Grandmaster. I don't think it's as good as, say, Enfeeble or Tectonic Spites and Entropic Gaze, but I definitely rate Stone to Spears as a really good card, just not as insanely broken as some from the other set.
I'd have to... It's okay. I don't think it's that good. It's 1 mana, it doesn't draw a card or anything, and the effect is really situational. It's pretty bad later on. It does let you reposition an obelisk, which can be nice if you play it behind you, and then you can play this, move forward, and then it's in a better place, even if you can't attack anything. But I feel like Vetruvian doesn't really have the good draw options it needs to justify playing this.
Yeah.
For me, it feels like kind of like Iron Cliff Heart when I first saw it. In theory, I thought it was amazing, but after practicing with it, it just is too situational. It's a cool card. Whenever I was playing Vetruvian with Macer and Grinch in like March or February, they had like this model where you always play Fire Obelisk in the corner, which is usually a good thing to do. So with this, you can reposition it later after you do that. It's cool, but I don't know if repositioning is worth the card.
Divine Spark. Now, Second Wish used to be draw 2 cards for 2 mana, and that was kind of broken. I think this is a little bit insulting, though, that they give us, you know, basically Second Wish for 3 mana in the same set that they give Tectonic Spikes, where, you know, both generals draw 3 cards, and it deals 3 damage as well. And the card we're going to review later on, you know, Trinity Oath, which is draw 3 cards for 4 mana and restore 3 health to your general. So I think this not having an extra attachment to it, I don't think it's strong enough, considering that there's just better draw card in the game. With that said, 3 mana draw 2 cards is kind of like a staple in most CCGs. Hearthstone has it, Magic has it, so it's not that surprising that they put it into the game, but I just think the way Duelist is so fast-paced and the way Power Creepers come into the game this last set makes this card just too weak to be considered, you know, decent. I think Lucian is just generally better, even though it gives you random cards.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would rather play Elkion over this. I'd rather play Spelljammer over this. I'd probably rather play Blazehound over this card. It's not terrible, but it's just too slow and is outclassed.
What do you think?
I personally think it's a little bit better than Elkion just because on 9 mana you can play this and Amara, but when you look at it in mana comparisons to like Sojourner and Astral, whatever the 3 mana draw 3 pets card is, Sojourner is so good in vet. Like it's probably the best. It's probably best in vet because they have First Wish, Second Wish, all that. So I think Sojourner way outclasses this, and I think the Astral draw 3 Battle Pets thing is even better because you get 3 cards instead of 2. So I don't think it's very great.
Yeah. Zephyr is an interesting card. Blood Surge, your general gains Frenzy. Just this turn, though. Again, 3/3 for 3 stats, and the fact that you have to Blood Surge, it's not Battle Cry. We were talking about it with the Vanar card, that Myriad isn't very good, but with that said, this one is a little bit less random. It doesn't have random keyword in it, but I think it'll be hard to find value. Xerix obviously isn't going to get that much out of it, so maybe we're talking, what's the name, Sag here. But I still think that just the stats in general are too weak to make it very good.
It's a cool card. 4 mana to gain Frenzy with a body that dies to Saber Spider, Phoenix Fire is kind of a turnoff, but I think it's a cool card like Iridium Scale, just a lot more expensive. So I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'd consider this just a worse Iridium Scale, and Iridium Scale's already not great. It's fine, you can play it in the back and get, like, force your opponent to play around Frenzy. And you can combo it with Incineroar, which is played, I mean, which we'll cover later on. But it's just not a great card. It's too expensive for what it does, and the body isn't very impactful.
So moving right along, Incineroar. It's a 5/6 for 5, so fairly decent stats. Your general may move 2 additional spaces. Now, you don't have to Blood Surge this one, it just comes with it naturally, and you can use it the turn you play it. Assuming that you aren't moving your general to position this first, in which case you kind of don't get to take advantage of the ability. There's a 2/6 for 4 that moves you 2 spaces the turn it's played. So, and that gets played a relative amount of time. So 1 extra mana for 3 extra attack is really decent, and then it's persistent. So I would say this card kind of replaces Silhouette Tracer. Silhouette Tracer does get you out of provoke and allows you to move through minions, so it is slightly better in that respect. But I still think this having significantly higher attack and a persistent effect makes it better. How much play it will see, though, I'm not sure. Again, mostly just because Vetruvian in general isn't that great, and because the metas really, punish, for example, makes this card like a bad decision, because all you get for your 3 extra mana is being able to move 2 additional spaces. So I would say this is an okay card, but in the current meta, it's bad.
That sounds about right. And even if the meta shifted to a weird place where this was good, I might honestly still rather play Tracer, just because it does let you escape from provoke, it does let you get through walls of enemies, and it costs 1 mana less, so you can play more things.
I think it's a cool card. It's basically an infinite silhouette if it lives a turn, but that's kind of rare to have happen in Duelist, where something threatening lives a turn if it actually is threatening. So I think Silhouette Tracer is a little bit better. I love Ankh in Cyclone decks, so I think it's cool to have cards like this, but I think Silhouette just does more, because 2 spaces isn't enough to get away.
Yeah. Autarch's Gifts. Equip 2 random Vetruvian artifacts. Now I'm just going to type in artifact here. So we have Staff of Ica, which is 2 attack for 2 mana. Wildfire Ankh, which is 3 mana blast. Hexblade, which is 4 mana, and then Spine Cleaver, which is 5 mana. So the average mana cost is 5, 9, 14 divided by 3, so about 4.5. And you get 2 of them, so you get 9 manas on average worth of artifact. It's important to note as well that you can't have 2 of the same, so it'll never equip 2 of Staff of Ikur. So the very minimum amount of cost for the artifacts that you get is 5 mana, so at the very minimum you get a Staff of Ikur and an Ankh. And the fact that it's kind of drawing you the extra card makes it, in the worst case scenario, usually good. And technically speaking, the best case scenario, where you get both Spine Cleaver and Hexblade for a total of 6 attack on your general. Anything that you attack turns to 1 attack, and then if you kill it, spawns a thing. Usually you want to get probably Wildfire Ankh and either Hexblade or Spine Cleaver. But yeah, I think this card is actually really good, is what I'm trying to get across. It's worst case good, and then best case is perfect, basically. With that said, again, the meta is really fast right now, so a 6 mana spell is kind of technically weak. Again, decks like Reaver and Fae and Magmar, the aggro Magmar that are strong in the meta right now, have easy ways to deal with you equipping these artifacts. They can just, damage you easily from 3 sources. They can damage you to the point where your artifacts are gone in 1 turn. So your 6 mana's worth of stuff, you get to use it for 1 turn and then it's gone again. So I think that this is an amazing card, really strong, but in the current meta it's just too slow. So I'm really sad about that, actually. I really hope that somehow they make some changes in the game to make the meta slow down a little bit, to make cards like this a lot better. What do you guys think?
I ideological standpoint of it, where you could build your deck for it. Like Heaven's Eclipse, I wouldn't play Spiral or a second Heaven's Eclipse, so I wouldn't search them. I think it's really cool. You could play one Ankh, one Hexblade to always search them or something like that, and with Replace, you could always have them in your deck.
It doesn't have to be in your deck. You can have no artifacts in your deck, and it'll still equip 2 random Vetruvian artifacts.
It's like
Oh
Elfin.
yeah, I just meant wait, let me read it.
So it's
So it just gives. Okay, not your deck. Never mind.
generates.
Yeah, it's not like
Okay.
Osirix where it equips 2 random artifacts from your deck. This generates them onto your... It's like Grincha, except it equips them.
Oh, that's disappointing. Then I was really happy to see another like Heaven's Eclipse type card where you could build your deck for it. I think it's cool. I think it's cool though. It might be played in OTK Vetruvian because you could play. It's a spell for Adjudicator. You could lower all your roller tiers. Hopefully, get like 2 Hexblades or something and kill them. But I don't think it'll be played that much outside of that.
What do you
Yeah,
reckon, Sivan?
You can be lucky with the dice roll and get Hexblade, Hexblade Ankh or Spine Cleaver Ankh or whatever you need for the situation you're in. But sometimes you're going to be on the other side of the board and you're going to play it and it's going to give you Hexblade and Staff of Akir, and it's just, you've just wasted 6 mana. It is too RNG to really be good, in my opinion. It could be good, but I'd rather just play artifacts or even Grincha than this.
Okay. So the next one, if I just type it in, do we have? Oh yes, that's right. An actual good Grandmaster. Well, in my opinion, Grandmaster Noshrak. I think 7 mana is a lot, but it does have both a persistent and immediate effect. So it does demand an answer. It can get, punished or aspect of the Foxed, or it can be turned into a 1/1. But the persistent effect is quite good, and especially if you have... Fate complains about it a lot because he calls it a win-war card. So if you've got board, this seals the game for you. This can give you lethal. If you have, 5 damage on the board and you need to find 5 more, then this can give you lethal. And if it survives a turn, a 4/7 blast flying that does double damage is insane. So you can deal, just with this minion alone, 8 damage to their general, and potentially, wipe out what's in line with their general. You can potentially deal a lot more if you have other sources as well. So I would say this is a good card, but again, the current meta makes it so that, on 7 mana you have to be winning the game or, removing all their stuff. So you can't really afford to just play this and hope that it survives. So, again, I'm going to say that this is a really strong card, but it just doesn't suit the current meta.
It's what Osirix should have been, I think.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of this card. I love the art, I love the design. I think it is a really cool example of a card, and the enemy general takes double damage. I think it can be likened to Old Time Maelstrom, where everything can kind of attack twice. And I'm a big fan. I don't think it's particularly good, especially right now, because it's 7 mana and it doesn't usually win you the game the turn you play it.
Yeah.
But it has the potential to be really strong, and I'm a big fan of it.
What do you think, Jay?
I like that comparison. It kind of is like Time Maelstrom. If you have a board, you win. I've heard a lot of people, whenever they talk about this, they talk about it in Dervish Bet because you already have rush minions from the Obelisk to work with. But I don't think Dervish Bet is very good with this because you usually win really early with that deck, and if you play something this late, I don't know if you'd have a board. But in controlled Vetruvian, I think it is really good. I would even argue it's better than Pandora, or in its like a strictly better Dark Nemesis. I think if it lives a turn, you win the game basically. I think it's a really cool design, like Simon said. Yeah.
Yeah, people were playing Dark Nemesis, right? And I think this, like you said, is strictly better than Dark Nemesis. So, but the problem is that people won't be playing Dark Nemesis or this anymore because you have to be really fast in this meta, I think. So moving along, Songhai now. Obscuring Blow. Now this is an interesting card. Only costs 1 mana, so it's super cheap. Give a friendly minion or general backstab 2. Now this is a permanent effect, and you can give it to your general. So your general can permanently have backstab 2, unless of course they get dispelled. I think that's really interesting, being able to sort of give your general backstab 2 permanently. You can also give it to a minion, and then on top of that, once it has backstab, then it combos with Killing Edge to draw a card. So being able to combo it with Killing Edge, 4 mana onto a minion, technically the Obscuring Blow now replaces itself. So if you maybe put it on a Tusk Boar, it can then draw a card, 1 mana, deal 2 damage, and then your Killing Edge on your Tusk Boar draws a card, and your Tusk Boar doesn't take any damage, so it now has 5 health. Maybe if you put it on your Sharkry avatar, your Sharkry doesn't take any damage, it gives it extra 2 damage to deal, and then, if you're also Killing Edging your Sharkry, because it's only 1 mana, so it's a fairly easy to play card. But with that said, I think there's just better spells in Songhai, and this is a little bit too situational, so it makes me sad that such a cool concept is unlikely to see play. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah.
I want to hear Jay's opinion as our resident Songhai god.
At first, whenever I saw this, I thought it was super cool. Give your general backstab. It reminded me a lot of March or February Songhai, where you play Cyclone, you force your opponent to you, then you backstab them after you get behind them, and they have to come to you because you have Cyclone. So I think it's really cool in that aspect. It brings that back a little bit. It gives you more options for decks like that. But other than Cyclone decks, I don't really think it's going to be that useful. Like, Katara already has backstab. Most of your minions, like Chakri, you don't even care about them not taking damage. They already do 1 billion damage. It's a really cool concept for Cyclone decks, but I don't know about other decks.
What about you, Sibin? What do you think?
I think the effect played on your general could be strong. On a minion, I'd be more iffy about it, because the minion will eventually die, whereas hopefully your general won't eventually die. And if you start with this, you can use it just to like fill out a turn if you're playing like a 2-drop on a tile and then a 4-drop on a tile, and then you've got 1 mana left over. You can just play this on your general.
Yeah.
And your opponent has to constantly play around that. And it can be an annoying card. I don't know if it's a particularly viable card, but I can definitely see decks playing like one-offs of this.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool card though, with permanent. Like, you could just play one of, like Simon said, and even if it's not useful, you just have it there. It's 1 mana, you didn't really use anything, and you have it for later.
So Ethereal Blade. When I first saw this, I thought, oh, this is crap. I thought, this isn't going to be useful. But actually, after seeing it used in a couple of games, I think this is insane. Because it's 2 mana, technically deal 4 damage, right? So you can use your general to remove something with 4 health, or just straight up deal 4 damage to the enemy general. And then you can put that to attack on anything from a fox to a boar to a Heartseeker, and then that plus to attack can help them to remove something with a much higher health total, or just in general, again, deal a bunch of face damage to the enemy. So I think this is definitely going to see play in Songhai decks. What do you reckon, Jay?
I I think it's a cool card. It's a little bit better than Saber Spine Seal, I think. 1 more damage. Macer will love this. He already plays Saber Spine Seal, it's more damage. I think it's a cool card. I personally don't play it, but for pure face decks, I think it's really good.
What do you reckon, Sivan?
I mean, yeah, I'd have to concur with what Jay said. If just face, burn, aggro, smork, Songhai is good, this card is good. If it is not, this card doesn't really have a home.
I think it's good removal too. I think you're underestimating the removal aspect of it because quite often, 3 and 4 health minions are difficult for you to remove with your general or, with your 1 and 2 attack minions. But now, this can, for 2 mana, allow you to basically remove 2 minions. So, I think it's not too bad as removal and as smork. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
That's actually a really good point because it gives you more options for it. Like you could kill a Sunsteel after you hit with like a Heartseeker, and then you still have the extra 2 damage from something else, so you're not wasting damage trying to while you remove.
Yeah. Twilight Fox. Now we talked about this card, and I said basically that it's bad. Again, the 3/3, it follows that theme. Vanar has the 3/3 for 3 Blood Surge. Magmar has at least got 4 health. The Vetruvian has the 3/3 for 3 with the Blood Surge. So the 3/3 for 3 with Blood Surge, the general form is that the Blood Surge ability is lacking. It's underperforming. What's the word? It's crap basically. And then the 3/3 for 3 stats are crap as well. Who are you using this with? If you're using it with Kalios, and you decide to teleport your minion forward towards one of their minions or their general, and then their general is now behind your general, that seems a bit, well, that just completely cancelled the ability. And then if you're using it with Reaver, now their general is within range to attack your BBS, your little Heartseeker that you just spawned. So it's kind of like, well, why did I make it so that they now can get towards my Heartseeker? They're much closer. So I can see some situations where it might be useful, but overall I would say this minion is crap.
This is just miniature MV Bear, I think.
It's what, sorry?
Miniature MV Bear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't really think it'll be played that much, but it is a cool concept. If it wasn't random, I would love it. But the random aspect, you could just pull like a 20/20 Juggernaut in your face, and then what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But in those Star Wars, sometimes you're across the map and your opponent's across the map. You're just summoning minions because you can't, because you don't have anything else to do. I think it's cool for that if you get lucky and pull their general, but it's really luck dependent.
Yeah, it's really luck dependent. You could pull their general, or you could end up pulling the Abyssal Juggernaut that you put in the corner that's now in your face, and you're just kind of like, well, I concede now. So I don't really like cards with random on them, especially not when they have a chance to either randomly win or lose the game. Whiplash. Blood Surge, deal 2 damage to the enemy general on a 4/3 for 3. Normally, I would say this card is good, because dealing 2 damage to the enemy general for free is good, and a 4/3 for 3 body isn't bad. But in Songhai, it's bad because they have already a bunch of really good 3-drops. They have Key Beholder, which is amazing. They have the Fox, which is amazing. And just in general, they just have even a... What's it called? The came out last patch. It is Battle Pando. Even Gorehorn is better. So Battle Pando, even Celestial Phantom, which sees almost no play, I would say is better than this card. So I'm not saying this card Whiplash is bad. It's just not good enough for Songhai.
Yeah, infinite value minions are basically never bad because they have late game potential, but its stats just I don't think it's worth playing for the late game or early game. Late game, you have a Fade Bloodborn spell now, but you didn't have a There's a lot better 3-drops. It dies to Phoenix Fire and the Mirrors. You can play a Kai Beholder and do 3 damage every turn instead of 2.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't like it.
What do you think, Seven?
A lot of the time, it will just be a Bloodshot Golem. Sometimes it will do 2 damage to the enemy general's face. In neither of those cases, it's worse. Like you said, Gorehorn, Lantern Fox, Battle Panda, Key Beholder, Sojourner. It's just kind of underwhelming. It is competing with what's that guy called? The 4/3 that does 1 damage to a random enemy.
Jade Monk?
Jade Monk, yeah, it's competing with Jade Monk, but that's not really a...
I'm actually really sad that this card is in Songhai, because I can imagine putting it in an aggro Fey deck. I wouldn't be upset putting this in an aggro Fey deck. I'd be like, this is probably better than nothing, because sometimes in Fey you want like a semi-decent 3-drop, and you want something that just gives you those extra points of damage late game. And again, it has infinite value, so you can sit it at the back. It's especially good, like I said, that I'll be running the Cryptographer, so if you can, if you could, as Fae, you could drop this, BBS, Cryptographer, BBS again. It does cost 7 mana, but it deals 8 damage to the enemy general. So this would be insane in that case, in aggro Fae, but in Songhai, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, when you bring that up, I kind of think of White Widow. It could be really cool in like a pure deck built around it, like how White Widow is cool with Aethermaster. If you run this Cryptographer or in all the other cards, it's cool, but the difference between this and White Widow is still worse because 3 HP dies faster than dies easier.
If we played, we'll get to Geomancer in a second, but if you play Geomancer, and then at 9 mana, you can end up dealing 10 damage to their general, and then, you can deal, technically, you can deal 5 damage a turn with Whiplash plus BBSing them, but I still don't think it's worth. So speaking of things that aren't worth, Cobra Strike. Deal 3 damage to an enemy minion and the enemy general. I think this card would be insanely good for 3 mana. It would be an auto-include for 3 mana, but I think for 4 mana it's crap. And it really accentuates just how much 1 mana can be the difference between a strong spell and a weak spell. I think if you got to choose both targets, so if it was 4 mana, deal 3 damage to something and then deal 3 damage to another thing, so basically double Phoenix Fire for 4 mana, then it would be good. But just assuming that there's something that you want to deal 3 damage to and then you want to Phoenix Fire their face, I think it's a bad card, basically.
I don't think this buff will really help Hunter against Aggro Shaman.
What?
It's the same as the Hearthstone card. It's the exact same effect as the Hunter card.
Jay likes that one.
It is ripped straight out of Hearthstone. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Hearthstone card is even a Snake Shot 2 or something. I forgot what its name is.
What's it?
I think it's called Cobra Shot.
Deal 3 damage.
Is it really? Well,
Let's see.
Oh wow.
It's called Cobra.
Okay.
It's 5 mana Hunter spell, Cobra Shot, exact same effect.
Okay, so basically it's like the Meltdown where it's 1 mana cheaper with the same card, basically. But on the card itself, I think it's not really great. 4 mana deal 3 damage isn't that good.
It has some potential with Crescent Spear, I think, because then that's 4 damage and 4 damage. But aside from that, it's just kind of mediocre.
If it was 4 damage and 4 damage, it would be good, but that now you have to establish getting the extra damage, so I don't think it's good enough. And then finally, Geomancer. 5/4 for 5, and it turns your BBS into Phoenix Fire. Now, the problem I have with this card is that your BBS is already good. If you're playing Reaver, it's already a really strong BBS, and if you're playing Kalios, usually your deck is built around your BBS, so you kind of want to use your BBS because your whole deck's built around it. And then as Reaver, you've already got a really strong BBS, so replacing it's not that good, especially when you're playing an understated minion. If this was a 5/4 for 4, I might consider it good, but for 5 mana, you're investing a lot into making what is already a good BBS slightly better. What do you guys think?
I think this would be cool in another faction, like Vanar. It would be really cool to see like a straight upgrade. Well, not a straight because it's 1 mana more, but like an upgrade in damage to Fae, just go like from 2 to 3. That would be really cool. And then Kara, her problem is that her late game or Bloodborn spell isn't as good, so you could transform it into a late game spell. But in Songhai, Reva's Bloodborn spell set versus Caspa is better. Like, I would never want a Phoenix Fire Bloodborn spell over Heartseeker every turn, because that's what beats Magmar and stuff late game. It's like auto late game card.
Yeah.
Or Bloodborn spell.
Actually,
but yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned like
think
Fae and Magmar, because when I first saw this card, I thought it was a neutral card, and I was like, oh, this will be an auto include in Magmar, right? Like, Vath will definitely like what's the word? Flash reincarnation this out on turn 1, and then have Phoenix Fires for the rest of the game. And then someone was like, "It's a Songhai card, man. Vath can't play it." And I was like, "Oh, well, then it's crap."
Oh, we can only dream.
if only Magmar had it. Like, I think it'd be better in like almost every other faction, but in Songhai, not really.
Yeah. So, the last faction we have left, Lyonar, Draining Wave. Deal 4 damage to a minion and your general. I've gone switching for the last 24 hours or so. I've been switching between this card is incredibly OP and is an auto-include in literally any Lyonar deck that you're playing, to this card is crap, it'll only kill you faster and lose you the game. I can't work out if it's good or bad. On the one hand, dealing 4 damage for 1 mana is insane. You can gain huge amounts of tempo. Your opponent will usually play a 4 or 5 mana minion for that cost, so you gain 3 points of tempo for 4 health, which in an aggro deck, or even in a control deck, you don't even mind. You'll usually either heal it back up, or you don't care about your life total because you're aggro. But then, on the other hand, with this insane Magmar deck in the meta, the Entropic Gaze, Tectonic Spikes, I think if they see you Draining Wave one of their minions, they smile. They say, yes, please deal 4 damage to yourself. They're like, if I could sacrifice one of my minions and deal 4 damage to you, I would just do that automatically. So they're happy to see you play that. So I think it's a strong card. I'm still not sure about it in this meta.
I don't think it's good.
Oh, really?
In aggro, maybe. But other than in aggro Lyonar decks, I just don't think this is worth it. You can sometimes start with, like, go second, start with Silverguard Knight and play this on their 2-drop, and usually win from there unless they have, like, natural selection. But too often it will just kill you faster, make your, like, deplete your hand faster, and I'm not a big fan of this. I'd rather play Repulsive Beast, Martyrdom, any other removal, pretty much.
I think it's a cool... I actually haven't seen it played very much. I played versus it one time versus Macer. He played it versus me turn 1, and it was cool. He got to play Silverguard the same turn. But versus face decks, like you said, I don't think it's very great. And right now, Face Bath, Face Lyonar are really popular, so right now I don't know if it's the best, but with Cryogenesis nerfed, I thought Cryogenesis was like one of the most design limiting cards because you could never print 4 HP cards. It just wouldn't work. But with this now, it does the same thing. Like, you can't play Decimus, and Decimus is actually going up because of that. Nobody's playing Cryogenesis, so they're playing 4 mana for HP cards, and this will kill it. So I think it's cool. It depends on what people are playing.
Yeah, I think it's really if it was only 3 health to your general, if it was 2 health, it would be easily broken. But 3 and 4, it starts making you wonder if it's worth it or not. If it dealt 5 damage as well, then it would make it a lot easier to remove some cards. It's interesting to compare this and then adding with some of the other healing effects that were added not just in the game but previously. For example, you can deal with, what's the card, Snake Eats Tail for 5 mana.
Circle of Life.
Circle of something?
Life.
Circle.
So for 6 mana, you end up dealing 9 damage to minions, which is, it's pretty decent. It's basically, for each mana you're dealing 2 damage. Oh no, that's not right. For every 2 mana you're dealing 3 damage, like you would with a Phoenix Fire. So, and then you end up with a total sum healing of +1. So technically speaking, if you're playing a bunch of healing, the Draining Wave's not too bad. It's quite good. But yeah, in this meta, like, I just feel like you're just killing yourself. You're just going, okay, well, I'm going to die just a turn earlier so that I can get some board advantage. I don't think it's worth it. Prism Barrier.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to add on to it is, on top of it not being very great versus aggro, except versus like Decimus Vath, versus control decks, they don't really care about it either. Like, Kalino lives it, and control decks in general don't care if you remove their cards early.
Yeah, well, I mean, against a control deck, if you're playing an aggressive mid-range or tempo deck, it can be quite strong, right? Because you might be able to, remove one of their mid-range minions for 1 mana and then develop your own, which is how you start pushing face damage. But, like you said, the problem is most of the control decks play 5 health or more minions, so, you're only going to remove a 2-drop with this, and gaining 1 mana of tempo for 4 health isn't worth it. So, give a friendly minion force field for 2 mana. I think this is an underwhelming card and is not worth it. I think this will be interesting to come off of Lycaon so that you can use it. But I think it's I would consider it strictly worse than the Vanar spell. What's it called? Boundless Courage. What do you guys think?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like a worse Boundless Courage. It can be fun with Azurite Lion, but for 2 mana, it's not really worth the effect.
It's cool. I've only seen it once. I've only seen one liner in general, but it was versus Macer. He played 2 of these. One was on a buffed up Azurite Lion, which is really cool. You could protect it so it doesn't die. I just aspect the foxed it though, and didn't really care. So it's cool. It got some value on his first minion, but it's a little tiny annoyance. Like, you don't really care.
Scintilla. Breaking the mold of underwhelming Blood Surge ability on 3/3 for 3. Lyonar again gets the best 3-drops. This time it has the extra health that I so wish the Vanar and even the Vetruvian one had. I think if they had that extra health, then they would still only be borderline playable. I think this one's actually quite strong. Again, healing in this meta is quite strong as well. And then if you're playing Argion, if you're playing Zaran, then obviously every source of healing is going to help buff your deck. And this, especially if you are playing the things that proc off of healing and you use your BBS, it's now procking twice. So I think that's strong. It's decently statted as a 3/4 for 3, so it's not a bad turn 1 play going second. And And, you know, a lot of people call it, like you said, infinite value in the late game. You know, you can just keep healing off of it, so it counters things like phase inevitability. In a way, it sort of counters things like if there's a Decimus on the board, or all the things that are just chipping away at your life total. You're not getting chipped anymore, you're actually gaining health over time, and it's got decent stats. I can see this even being played in aggro decks, because health is technically a form of damage with your general. You can constantly trade general attacks while also healing up. So if you consider this a 5/4 for 4 that heals you for 3 life, Emerald Rejuvenator used to be a 4/4 for 4 that healed you for 4 life. So this is 1 less healing but 1 extra attack. So I would consider this a very strong card. I would consider it certainly playable, and I expect to see it like played in S rank, if not in tournament decks. What do you guys think?
It's
Jay,
very,
Sivan?
very, very good.
Very, very, very good, you reckon, Sivan?
I would probably expect to see this in every Lyonar deck.
Oh, really?
Like, not just Saran. I
Do you
think.
think it rivals with Silverguard for, like, would you play this over Silverguard, or would you play it with Silverguard?
I'd play it with Silverguard. I mean, I'm of the opinion that Silverguard is the best card in Lyonar, but this is pretty close.
Yeah, I
This is
agree.
very good.
It's cool. It has the reverse stats of Whiplash, which is really good. Not 3 HP, big upside. It's really good in Zyron. I don't know. I haven't seen it played it in any other deck. But it has really good stats. It's really close to Silverguard level. I wouldn't play it personally in aggro, but I could see it being good in any deck.
So Sunbreaker, 2/4 Force Field for 4 mana, which we know those stats already on another card. The other card blocks minions with Rush. This one turns your Bloodborn spell into Tempest. So it's a good thing this thing has Force Field, so it can survive your Bloodborn spell. Tempest is definitely a strong card, especially when you can use it like consistently. But for 2 mana, so for 6 mana, you get basically, you know, a 2/4 that then can't, you know, you don't want to attack with it. You are dealing 2 damage every single turn, which, if we remember old Magmar had the 2 damage, what was it, Spirit Harvester. So that was nerfed because it was considered too strong. So, but the thing is, Lyonar's BBSs are both really strong and kind of important to their generals in general. So I'm not sure about this card. I think it's maybe playable, but I wouldn't expect to see more than 1, and I wouldn't think of it as a threat. What do you guys think?
Some people have tried playing this over Tempest itself, but whenever you want to play Tempest, it's usually really early in the game. Like, they play Wraithing Swarm and all that, and you want a Tempest. But this, it's like a 6 mana combo, or a 2-turn combo. You don't have time for that versus 6, you want a Tempest early on.
Yeah.
It's cool, but, like, it gives up a lot of versatility. Like, whenever you play Deal just because it's a 2/10 almost every time. So without having the roar, it's a really big limitation. I don't know. I don't like it.
What do you think, Seven?
Your Bloodborne spell being Tempest just isn't strong enough to warrant playing this relatively understated card. I mean, if you're playing a Force Field 4-drop, I would rather play Night Watcher or Sunsteel than this. And keep Roar to roar it up.
Yeah.
That's a point, because with Night Watcher, the reason that was so good in Argion is because you can roar it to play around Plasma Storm and Natural Selection, but you play this and you cannot roar it because you can only Tempest.
Yeah.
So it just gets Natural Selection.
Yeah. Trinity Oath, speaking of ridiculously strong Lyonar cards, it's a 4 mana Heaven's Eclipse that also heals you. I think this is finally what you need as a draw card to be stronger than Lycian. Some people were playing that 6 mana thing, what's it called? What's his name? Played at Colossus.
Solarius,
yeah, as a 3/3. Some people were playing that, but I think this is just playing better than that as well.
Oh yeah.
It heals you, so it's really good in aggro metas. You know, it's even good, like I said, in aggro decks because you want to drop your hand and then redraw it, and you can trade your general attack more often with this. So I think this is going to see play in literally every Lyonar deck, and if you're not playing this, then I don't think you're playing Lyonar properly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this just makes me...
for doing it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, this makes me kind of sad whenever I think of it, in comparison to Heaven's Eclipse. I just imagine Heaven's Eclipse getting nerfed, and then they're like, this is 5 mana, let's make better versions of it. So, it's definitely really good. It's a pre-nerf Heaven's Eclipse with upside, so, yeah, it's really good. Probably the best draw they could get.
And then finally, a card that has actually surprised me, Excelsius. When I look at this, especially like we were discussing before about cards that are weak to punish and cards that are weak to this aggro meta, I thought this is garbage incarnate. You know, 8 mana for something that's just going to die. You're just begging to lose the game. But actually, most of the time that I see this played, it wins the game. And the point is that, especially against Lyonar, a lot of the time people will use their removal earlier, and especially against Zaran, there's a lot of important targets to remove already. You know, things like Sunriser, things like even something like a Silverguard Knight, definitely an Ironcliff Guardian, Sunriser. What's the thing that gives them attack? Where's that one? The Sunforged Lancer. Hell, even Scintilla. All of these cards are cards that you will remove often, you know, with your removal, and then all of a sudden they drop this Excelsius that you weren't expecting, and it has 12/12 attack, and you've used all your silence and removal, and you're thinking, well, how do I deal with this? So it can lose you the game, and it can win you the game. So from a design perspective, I hate this card, but I think it's actually playable, even in this meta. What do you guys think?
I would always rather play Skyflanks than this.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What's Skyflanks?
What's Skyflanks?
Summon 3 Silverguard Knights around your general.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, I'd play that.
I think Skyflanks is actually a pretty good card. I don't think this is a pretty good card. If you want one single scary, threatening card, play Elix, and you can even play an Aegis Barrier, and it still costs less than this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it. Literally, they could have put answer this or die on the text, and I wouldn't really see a difference. It's one of the biggest. It's one of the biggest answer or die minions that they've printed, I think. Well, next to like Chakri Avatar. But it's cool. It's like a Timmy card. They get to play something huge, but it's like almost strictly worse than any other late game card. Somebody will win with it one day, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, Excelsius is broken," and then I'm like, "Wouldn't any other late game card win the game if they didn't answer it?"
Well, I've seen it played, and it's been stronger than, you know, the other cards we were talking about before with, what's it called, Dank Nemesis and stuff like that, Pandora, and this has been stronger than those because it comes out with higher stats, and it has Provoke, and it also has Celerity, so it can instantly close out the game, and it has quite a big range, so I think this is the epitome of the Answer or Die cards. Personally, I wouldn't play it because I don't play slow Lyonar, but I wouldn't think less of someone who played it in a slow Lyonar deck. So that brings us to the end of the review of all the cards. So let's share some deck lists. I'm going to give a review of, this is the deck that I've been working on for Magmar, because I'm playing Starhorn. It's basically, it takes advantage of all of the really strong cards. I am running Decimus. I think Decimus is good enough to run in this deck. It's got the usual 3 Mercanta, 3 Elucidator, 3 Thumping Wave. Of course, the Tectonic Spikes and the Entropic Gaze. I also think Saber Spine Tiger is worth running. 3 Flame Blood. I'm actually running 3 Blood. What were we going to say,
the bottom 2
Simon?
cards. Your face cam's in the way of the bottom 2 cards.
Oh, okay. How do I... Here we go. I'll just
Do you mind linking the deck for me, or is it not in a link?
It's not in a link. You can look at my stream. I'll link that
Oh, okay.
in a second. I will work that out.
I mean, we can assume that the 6 mana card is War Beast. Hey, you are. Oh, okay. It was just prismatic elucidators. All right.
So where are we? I linked it in our chat, Jay. That's my stream. You can watch. So yeah, I'm running. I think Rancor is good. I disagreed with you guys, I think. I run a very low end with the Blood Tear and the Greater Fortitude and a couple Flash Reincarnations. Because I think with, like, lots of people are playing, what's it called, Spelljammer, and then you've got heaps of draw with Starhorn himself, along with Entropic Gaze and Tectonic Spikes, so I feel like you've got enough draw that you can run a really low end and just aggro them as quickly as possible. You know, your Mercanta War Beast for 7 mana becomes a 6 damage AoE. You know, it's good on things like Elucidators and Saber Spine Tigers, so even on Flame Blood, Warlock all of a sudden survives a general attack and remains as a 5/2. So yeah, this is what I think is the best Starhorn deck. I'm not sure about these 2 natural selection. I've thought about everything from more damage sources like Primus Shieldmaster, to maybe throwing in some Chrysalis Burst, some Earth Sphere to maybe be more favoured in the mirror matchup, Plasma Storms in case you fall behind in board. Like I've thought about all of it. Maybe a Bounded Life Force to cheese out some wins there because they don't expect you to hit with your general when you're playing Starhorn. But I think the natural selection as a low cost spell and just good removal in general, especially for dealing with things like Kaleno, there's usually not anything with 1 attack on the board. So you can, like, almost always natural selection the Kaleno, which is like the perfect answer to it. I just think that's good. Wait, do you reckon that's good idea, Simon? What's your list? Have you got a list you can link me?
Could you, like, scroll down? Yeah. My list is the pretty much exact same as this, except I don't have natural selection, I have Ephemeral Shroud.
Okay, so 2 Ephemeral Shroud instead of natural selection?
No, I've got some other cards as well. I can't tell what I'm not playing that you are. Oh yeah, I'm not playing Flash.
You're not playing Flash?
I mean, I want to work Flash in here, but I haven't yet.
Yeah, I included Flash
triple
because...
Shroud, triple Primus Fist.
I included Flash because I've seen Flash Decimus and Flash Mercanta Warbeast win games on their own, so... and then I figure, if you're playing in the mirror match or against someone with a Spelljammer, quite often you'll fill your hand, so you'll draw a bunch, especially when you're trying to proc the Decimus, and then you'll be sitting there with a full hand, so you might want to just do something like flash out a Flame Blood, or, you know, flash out a young Silithar or a Rancor, just to drop your hand so that you don't, you know, overdraw.
Yeah.
That's the
I
main
used to
reason
think-
they're in there.
Oh, sorry. I used to think that Flash was bad in base Magmar decks, but in this one, now that you have Tectonic Spikes, it gives you a reason to play really low-cost things that you can refill with. I just think Flash is really good because you could Tectonic Spikes and draw into Flash Reincarnation at any point and just flash out Flame Bloods and do insane burst out of nowhere.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, your Vath deck includes one Azure Herald, which is interesting.
Yeah, after Cybin brought up the Ephemeral Shroud, I think I'll do that and put a Shroud in for Shroud to counter Vanar Shroud.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that it's worth like because most Vanar players I see as well act like the Shroud, the Vanar Shroud's never going to get dispelled. They just walk around like, haha, I'm invulnerable now, which is funny because I can't wait until someone shrouds and then just dies horribly as they get dispelled.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea, Simon. I'm gonna try that.
I do play Flash in the Vath. I have a face Starhorn and a face Vath list. I play Flash in the Vath one.
This is the Fey deck that I've been working with. It's not good yet. I'm gonna go ahead and just say that. You can see I put in 3 Avalanche because after my 3rd game in a row where I spent the whole game on my side of the board, like everything was going on my side of the board, I thought Avalanche will be absolutely amazing. And then the first game that I play, my opponent sits on their side of the board the whole game after I took out all my infiltrate stuff, so that kind of tilted me a little bit. I'm not sure how to make the deck good, but the core concept is there, and I think that it is good. I think someone else will do it better than me, and then I can tweak it with the cards that I know operate well, but I'm just not very good, I think, at raw deck construction. I just can't work out how to curve out properly and how to add stuff in, because I have the 3 Spelljammers and 3 Lakians, as well as 3 Alcuin Lawmasters, and yet sometimes I'll sit there and this will be everything I draw is just this top half of the deck. And I'll just draw only these things and I'll run out of steam and I'll sit there thinking like, what went wrong? And then other games the reverse happens where I sit there and I draw nothing but weapons, Spelljammers and Sworn Sister, and I think this is a terrible deck. Like, I can't win with nothing but Spelljammer, Sworn Sister and weapons. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong with the deck construction, but hopefully someone that's better than me works out how to play this properly. I have had a 50% win rate with it, so it's not terrible. It is working against the meta at a 50% win rate, but I would consider anything that works at a 50% win rate to be bad. So,
I linked my control Fey, and I think it's really good. I think I'm like 7-1 with it so far or something, but it's been really good. The deck has a lot of fluctuation you can do with it. Like, I don't even know if Azure Herald is needed. I just put them in because I kept facing face a lot. And I used to play Cryogenesis. I messed around with Cold Fighter and just go pure control of almost no 2-drops. But Vanar's 2-drops are so good, so I don't know. It's been working really well for me in this list.
Interesting to me that you have Crystal Wisp in there. Have you been finding that gets value?
Yeah, it's really good. I think any 2-drop that your opponent doesn't want to remove, like Jaxi, packs and all that, are super good, and nobody wants to remove a Wisp turn 1 because they'll just get 5-dropped or 4-dropped next turn. So It lets you ramp into your 4s. Vanar has really good 4s with Dealtis or Wisp or Asp. I mean,
3
yeah,
white
it's been really
Asp.
good.
Don't you think
Huh?
3? I feel like 3 white Asp is a little bit overboard.
I didn't think it was very good before the patch, but now I think it's really good with Shroud because you can Shroud and then Asp and kill a Silver Guard or whatever. Especially when Lyonar, I think, is really prevalent right now. It kills a Silver Guard. That's a really good tempo swing.
Were you inspired by the ultimate guide to Wisp Fey on 9moons.com? 9moons.gg, sorry.
9moons.gg. All the lists that we talk about today will be going, along with a YouTube upload, will be going on the 9moons.gg site, so you should all check out that if you're watching right now and you felt you've missed anything. So just looking quickly in S rank, I was saying before that the meta is Vath and counter Vath. I mean Magmar is what I technically said, and we have out of the, let's see, how many front page things do we see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So out of the 20 characters we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of the 20 heroes are Magmar, and actually only one of them was Starhorn, which is slightly interesting. So maybe, oh no, two of them are Starhorn, my bad. So maybe Vath is better on that deck. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And then how many we see 1, 2, 3 Lyonar, and they're all Argyon. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Cass. So Cass is actually quite prevalent, I think, in the meta, and then we see a few Fae. So we see a couple Fae. So that's pretty much what I expected. That's around about what I expected to see in the meta. Has anyone got a cast list? I don't think. Then we had SSR Doctor Who's cast list, so I'll have a look at that.
I played against Cassiva with Starhorn and managed to mill 2 Obliterate, 2 Spectral Revenant, and 2 Abyssal Juggernaut, and that was a pretty fun game.
Oh wow! Did you win? You would have won though.
Yeah, I won.
I have my Swarm Cassiva, but I haven't updated it. But I think it'd be about the same with Punishes, and maybe one lure. Just cut all lures, put Punishes, maybe have one random lure. And then I don't think Obliterate's very good compared to Varix. Like, I would argue Varix is just the one up instead of Obliterate, you know?
Okay, so what we'll do is I'll gather up the list after the stream, and I will put it up on the website. I think unless you guys have anything more you wanted to talk about, we might call the end of the stream there. Either of you have anything you wanted to chat about?
No, I think that's leaving it in a good place.
It's fine for me.
Okay, thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Like I said, this will be up on the 9moons.gg website, and check it out there for some lists. Don't forget, in I think in just under 3 weeks from now, we will have exactly 3 weeks from now, I think it is. We will be having the 9 Moons Invitational for the Rise of the Bloodborn, with myself, Sibin, Jay, Grinches, Zooches, SS Doctor Who, and Collis the Dragon and Zane. So we've got 3 Grandmasters in there, the whole 9 Moons team, as well as a couple of popular streamers in Grinches and Zooches, who both play a lot of really interesting decks. You'll be able to check out all their deck lists. So in 3 weeks, I think the meta will be a lot more established. So that will be, I think, the really exciting thing. And then we should have the race to S rank in about 2 weeks' time, but that won't be as big a deal as it was last month. It'll be a much smaller event. Again, thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll see you all later. Have a nice day.